I put a link to it. Occupy Democrats have a clip of a Supreme Court justice speaking on civil discourse and on people's opinions. That's also rolls with the syntax of the state judicial branch offices and corrections offices of Connecticut with all kinds of organized crimes. A certain type of victim slash hyper victim that only learned how to respond as collusions with the way the breaching method showed them to respond as collusion slash S with all natures of crime scenes and with names next to the networks. They're preventing people short words properly with in life and with subjects and other people's names. And they're getting away with it because they're also extending lists, like, for example, all names on all sides of criminal and civil cases, the court's names, their family members, the lawyers, the conjunctions to them, their family members. In other words, the networks, the names next to the networks with the intelligence, the difference of the guilt at the places or next to them too is also manifest. Offensively, all sides of criminal and civil cases, in the interbranch, the same thing. Their family members, conjunctions to themselves. And the intelligence, foreign and domestic, they are mixed. They're directed to hide things about how they have roles next to campuses through time, interstates and internationally. People come to Connecticut campuses, and they have long had intercultural collusion slash S, covering up collusions in the past. The breaching method showed you guys how to speak about how the breaching method reassigned what black pupils, whites of eyes communicate. And it only allowed roles with that. And you guys use those truths about those roles to keep other things, others ourselves, besides the breaching method blamed. And where this is recorded is how you guys jump in and pretend where it's debatable. There's certain type of you guys, in other words, forgiveness is so you guys will allow someone to use short words properly. Then you guys want to speak anyway. You guys put me in fake conversations with my family since I was a kid. Collusion slash S. And with other people. Since I was a kid, the interbranch switched names, forged names. Whole bunch of people in the Britain Superior Court, they recorded themselves criminally foreign influence. Tactically delusions raw and collusion slash S. All kinds of foreign and domestic medical families putting fake ties to little kids. Then they put that in databases, no one's even looking. Years later, people exploit that. And next to each of the campuses, they're planting evidences to build upon. They already had collusions with everything that came before them. Multiple courts involved with the Leahy family, involved with courts, judges, and their family members, with houses on my street in Wethersfield, Connecticut, with a whole bunch of people involved at Harvard Hospital, them putting fake transcripts of me. At Central Connecticut State University, they have a Dean Judd and his kids. They want to go back and forth. These are experts. They already were shown that they had collusions with everything that came before them, and with all kinds of natures of organized crimes with the prisons and the corrections offices and the judicial branch offices. They have all kinds of collusions of wire crime acts and methods where they fake and change and hide what's actually recorded over phones. These are Wethersfield Police Department with multiple other police departments and retired police chiefs and their intimate ties involved with foreign and domestic medical families, time collusion slash S, identity theft, fraud, slanders, fake motivations, switching names, refusing to get on paper, refusing to identify themselves legitimately into branch, switching sequences, interstates, the same ones that forcing me to collusion still. All sides of criminal civil cases forced, not just me. In other words, still forcing that, but refusing to identify themselves. Lying, needing to lie about how, why, and how. In other words, they're sequence shifting with that too, because they brought up the rape threats were passion crimes involved with a whole bunch of people involved with former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, in the Britain Superior Court, Harvard Courts, with Eric Burgess. And one of the girls in the court said he would be in a lot of trouble. And I didn't bring it up when there's an officer Hunter, but that might not be his name, refusing to identify themselves legitimately. They have collusion slash S all along Park Street and conjunctions to it with former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, Harper courts and the Britton Spear Court and the District Court with leaders of the kids intercities and names that live next to them, involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders, putting fake things in databases to lock everyone needed to keep collusion with everything that comes before them, with all natures of crime scenes that originally and still the courts had collusions with. We're supposed to understand, even if it was totally made up, why there's a witch trials place next to Webb House, why it's now renamed the Webb Stevens Museum, and why it and the other founding locations don't have clearer than day. Why and how they're all about James Madison's plan, which there were so many crazy laws and overt criminal enterprises, private ones, crazy countries, international companies, all at the same time, for measuring and maintaining everyone's collusions against themselves and against everyone else, or that body was sensed and it was adapted to by the torture, extortion, slavery method that was entrenched in northern colonies, southern colonies before our founders were born. We have black pupils, whites of eyes, let alone if we're born in a city, we know clearer than day, and where people stacked upon, where no one could go outside and raise food. And before there are problems out there, those people had sustained a bunch of fakes pretending other upon them. This is a torture, extortion, slavery method operated through everyone's roles, with operating it for the breaching method. Before the religious messengers were even born, before Jesus was even born, already everyone was making confessions to the hyperforeign, because only the phenomenon of countries A through Z, they could only be operated by the locations, areas, and states' voices. And there are proofs that it's more probable and practical and demonstrable that a breaching method forced, tricked, hurt, and persuaded those voices consciously to have to defend themselves, not knowing how to do so properly. And so countering wrong fact-sheet nature-wise, therefore physically, and then defending that. And then the people that hurt and the people that show that, oh, well, you can't, that's not with nature, it makes you not be able to defend this, but they have to defend anyway. And everyone was leaving out the breaching methods roles, which is looking for that and to build upon it, keeping people blaming other things, others, or self. Now it has it clearer than day now. And so the courts have mental health deficiencies at the same time with the experts on, including ones with badges and gavels, and who are psychiatry experts. They're criminally formidable, tactical delusions, raw, all kinds of natures and methods of organized crimes associated with the locations associated with these people, and they're increasingly needed to hide life progressions from their uses of those. These are people personally and professionally involved with multiple courts and with the organized crime acts and methods recorded at and next to and conjunctive to the state judicial branch offices and corrections offices of Connecticut, as one's collusions with Washington, D.C., and with the World Trade Center, increasingly with educators I had, forced, tricked, hurt, and persuaded to collusions with people from off campuses. They're just repeating fake things. This breaching method has, even a Darth Vader, some cop punk using the name Darth Vader at Trinity College, involved with untimely death there, with people on my street in Wethersfield, involved with multiple retired police chiefs, the FBI director, and various natures of federal criminals, including ones as his co-defendants in a 2006 district court case, and shortly before that, and long-term before that, their collusions with names next to Fox Connecticut News in Hartford, Connecticut, and next to WFSB in Rocky Hill. And these are people also with WTNH sources along Route 175, planting evidences at corners of the streets, and as one's involved too at the corner of the street of the principal child abuser's office campus. Also with people named O'Neill that are educators in West Hartford. I never met them. They're educators in West Hartford. They have their kids involved planting evidences with the news and sexual and medical offenders of kids, and with Wethersfield campuses. and more people involved with the Facebook pages of Wethersfield Police and of the campuses. They also have some black themed, KKK themed, Confederate flag themed, and Italian themed, Irish themed, collusion, even like the Irish people involved with Frankie Reese with a Clinton Correctional Facility. And Facebook people have roles with agencies involved with the people reportedly who escaped from there. And during the time when they escaped from there, they're also involved with people with collusions with the body dumping spot, reportedly of a serial killer. And with that serial killer, collusion also with people with the crime scenes with his prison. And they forced the principal child abuser that's involved with that prison from the prison's roles with it. And from the rules, putting charges with no writing and switching and forging names and putting fake transcripts in writing that was never presented to anyone into the databases at the courts. Then they force, trick, hurt, and persuade, they torture the leaders. Then they say, well, what are you letting out someone who killed this person after they were arrested a whole bunch of times? And then they're using his, oh, well, that's why we're doing it. We was arrested bunch of time. And then they just make things up because they're fishing now for things to look for. And they're lying about their motivations. They're making good people get involved with themselves. They're trying to make things civil, where they have rules with all sides of civil and of criminal cases, with the interbranch and foreign at the same time, including Saudi Arabia. My Saudi friend, Wethersfield police officer with the last name Mendez, the older one, I think he has a brother. I reportedly that's his brother, Eric Mendez. I never had a class with either of them. He walked by me smiling a couple times. Someone told me his name. I don't even know who told me his name. That's one of the things that are manifest, where overt criminal enterprises, private ones, and foreign and domestic people have roles with identity theft, fraud, slanders, fake motivations too, together, because their motivations are relative to the breaching method. That's one of the breaching. The breaching method is roles with your motivations, wherein how you guys get involved or make excuses if anyone tries to use how we have black people's rights of eyes. It means to discern criminally forward influence readings of statutes and precedents and of reality, even if we're not lawyers. The names of the people of sciences are being and have been used remotely, criminally forward influence, tactical delusions, raw. Forgiveness is because worse is there at countries A through Z. There are self-value rules with this per use of location /S that everyone missed. Everyone speaks for practical reasons, trying to do their best. And then depending on that, in ways that can be healed, but you guys have to follow mandated law for that to be done. In other words, but you guys can't do it. And then you have to pretend about, and then you're jumping into people's hateful speech dishonestly. You can't afford to have discerned what came first. In other words, they have sequence shifts. Same people, increasingly, people involved with the Ninth Circuit Court next to the World Trade Center have collusions at all kinds of crime scenes. All natures of investigations, investigators associated with the World Trade Center attack. There are proofs they have roles with investigators since before that are criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions wrought, as are names of the people of the sciences, including the religions, including the military, has roles with a Violet family, a whole bunch of people that planted evidence on my street, fake ties, fake natures of ties to me. Also with the Joshua Julian, never saw him anywhere at all. As people from that increasingly did that intercities, in other words, and they make confessions too, and demonstrations. They won't get on paper. Every year since the World Trade Center attack, they have organized crime acts and methods roles. And this is worse than extortion. I can't make a living until I take care of this. I was in get me off the fake conversations with WFSB, Connecticut's Channel 3 News, about the World Trade Center, while the other networks had collusions also next to their locations with the intelligence involved. The difference of their guilt was used too by the breaching method. Things that are recorded that show that the agencies have been using the right to lie, where they just show the right to lie, including to Congress. They have things classified from Congress, from that. In other words, they're just going to keep wasting time. Get them the heck on paper. Control your mind. Vaccine.